Thea Stilton, MOUSEFORD Academy, SEA Turtle Rescue. Return to the beach. It was a peaceful summer night on Whale Island. A perfectly round moon surrounded by twinkling stars shone over Turtle Beach. Suddenly, there was a ripple of waves on the SEA, and two figures slowly emerged from the water. A ray from the moon illuminated the wet shells of two large sea turtles slowly making their way to shore. This was the beach where they had been born 25 years earlier. Now they had come back to lay their eggs. Once they'd found a good spot for their nests, the mama turtles dug deep holes and deposited their eggs. Then, as the darkness of night was replaced by the first light of dawn, they covered them carefully and headed back toward the sea. A few hours later, an alarm buzzed in a dorm room across the island at MOUSEFORD Academy. Nikki and Paulina woke with a start. The annual international meeting of the Green Mice Environmental Organization was about to begin. This year, the Green Mice meeting was going to be in Finland. Nikki and Paulina couldn't wait to tour the Finnish countryside and visit the country's magnificent fjords. "What do you say we go for a quick swim before we catch our flight?" suggested Paulina as she flipped through her Scandinavia guidebook. "Great idea," replied Nikki. "I don't know if I'm brave enough to dip my tail into those icy Finnish waters." She flopped down on her enormous suitcase and tried to keep it shut. The mouselets hurried down to Turtle Beach. But when they got there, they noticed strange lines in the sand. They looked like tire tracks. Someone drove a car onto the beach. Nikki exclaimed in alarm. "But these tracks lead straight into the sea." "How is that possible?" Paulina asked. The mouselets followed the tracks down the beach until they reached the place where they disappeared into the sea. They could see that sand had been moved, but they couldn't figure out what had happened to the car. "Of course," cried Nikki, smacking herself in the snout. "Why didn't I think of it sooner? These aren't tire tracks, they're loggerhead sea turtle tracks." Paulina looked at her friend. "Do you think sea turtles came and laid their eggs in the sand?" Nikki nodded. "They must have made their nest here." "We've got to tell Professor Van Kraken right away," Paulina said, pulling out her cell phone. Half an hour later, J.N. Van Kraken, MOUSEFORD's marine biology professor, joined the mice at Turtle Beach. "First of all, we need to fence off this section of the beach," he explained. "The eggs will hatch in about a month and a half, and we've got to protect them from the elements." The professor looked thoughtful for a moment. "It's too bad you two won't be around to help this summer. We'll need volunteers to care for the nest and check the temperature of the sand every day." Nikki and Paulina exchanged a look. "Professor, we can do it," Nikki said enthusiastically. "Are you sure?" "You'd have to cancel your trip to Finland," the professor said. The mouselets nodded. "We're lucky. We get to travel all the time," Paulina said. "Helping these turtles is the opportunity of a lifetime, and we don't want to miss it." 1 month later. "There's no point debating it," declared Nikki. "Radarin's best documentary is definitely The Macaque in Love." "Yep, it's one of his most entertaining movies," admitted Paulina. "But what about One Spotted Shark?" "Well, that one's great, too." Nikki sighed. "I give up. It's impossible to decide which is the best. They're all amazing." Colette and Violet exchanged a smile. Nikki and Paulina took their documentaries very seriously. It was nice to see them so excited. The 4 mice were sitting in the first row of a large lecture hall. The school year was about to begin in a very memorable way. James Radarin, their favorite documentary filmmaker, would be teaching a class at MOUSEFORD Academy. Over the course of the semester, Radarin would share his secrets for making beautiful documentaries. He was famous for following the lives of rare animal species on the brink of extinction. Violet, Colette, what's your favorite documentary? Asked Nikki. I liked The Friendly Cricket, Violet replied, smiling shyly. She was thinking of Frilly, her pet cricket. Well, my favorite is A Flock of Flamingos, said Colette. The colors in that movie are absolutely fabulous. They are so extraordinarily, exquisitely pink. The others laughed. Colette always appreciated the pink side of everything. I'm here, panted Pam, scurrying into the classroom. Sorry I'm late. She slid into a seat next to her friends. Don't worry, Paulina reassured her. James Ratterin isn't here yet. Thank good mouse, said Pam, catching her breath. I've had a really weird morning. Everywhere I went, I ran into the same rodent. He kept blocking my way and getting my paws in a pickle. Who was it? Asked Violet. I don't know, said Pam. Someone I've never seen before. A new student? Asked Paulina. I don't think so, Pam replied. He had video camera, and he was filming all over campus. Maybe he's a journalist who wants to interview James Ratterin, suggested Nikki. Could be, said Pam thoughtfully. As I was hurrying over here, I ran right into him. We both ended up tumbling on our tails. At that moment, the room exploded with applause. James Ratterin had just made his entrance. Behind him was the headmaster, Octavius de Mussis. Next to them was a young ratlet carrying a video camera. Rat-munching rattlesnakes, it's him. Pam cried. She could scarcely believe her eyes. The ratlet she'd been running into all morning was James Ratterin's assistant. A new friend. After a brief introduction from the headmaster, James Ratterin took the microphone and began squeaking. He told the students about the mysteries of nature and how they'd fascinated him since he was just a mooseling. He'd received his first video camera as a 12th birthday gift. It had immediately become his inseparable companion. When he grew up, he decided to study film. He wanted to show nature in all its glory by making wild animals the stars of his documentaries. The students listened to the director with their snouts gaping wide open like a pack of hungry cats at feeding time. His passion for nature was contagious. The lesson passed in a flash. At the end of the lecture, Nikki leaped to her paws. Let's go! We've got to get down to Turtle Beach. She and Paulina hurried out. Colette waved goodbye. Then she turned to her other friends. What an awesome class, right? She said. Yeah, it made me want to make a documentary, said Shin enthusiastically. Me, too, said Violet. But did you hear how much work goes into every film Ratterin makes? A ton. I know, said Craig. I thought all you had to do to film animals in their natural habitat was find a really good hiding spot, like behind a tree or something. You need a lot more than that, said Pam. You have to really understand animal habits and the environment. Plus, you need a lot of patience and really good assistance. Pam felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned and found herself snout to snout with Ratterin's assistant. Hi, I'm Mike, he began. Then he blushed. Redder than a golden hamster. I want to apologize for this morning. I was very rude. Pam smiled. I'm the one who should apologize, she said. I left without squeaking a word. I hope your video camera wasn't damaged. Don't worry, I didn't let it hit the ground. This one time in India, a macaque swiped it right out of my paws, and ever since then I've been extra careful, Mike said earnestly. Pam laughed. Mike chatted with the students for a few minutes. He told them his dream was to become a great documentary filmmaker like his boss, James Rattern. After studying for the past few years, Mike felt ready to make his first documentary, but he was looking for an original idea. Violet, Pam, and Colette exchanged a knowing look. "We might have the perfect subject for you," said Pam. "Come down to the beach with us. We've got 2 good friends you just have to meet. Nest nannies." After James Rattern's lesson, Nikki and Paulina hurried to the beach. For a few weeks now, they had been going down to check on the turtle's nest every day. "Good news, Paulina," said Nikki. "The temperature of the sand is the same." She jotted down a few notes. "This summer has gone by faster than a hamster on a wheel," said Paulina. "Just a few more days and the eggs will hatch." A sad expression flitted across her snout. "I'm going to miss all this." The 2 mouselets looked around. The sand glittered beneath the rays of the sun, and the only sound that broke the silence was the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. Paulina closed her eyes and took a deep breath of the salty air. Suddenly, a shrill squeak broke the spell. Puff, puff. "Hey, Nest Nan. The temperature is the same." "Hey, Nest Nannies. How's it going down here?" It was Ruby Flashy Fur. She was jogging along the shore with her friends the Ruby crew Alicia, Connie, and Zoe. "Are you still all wrapped up in those silly eggs?" Ruby asked with a smirk. Nikki put a paw on her hip. "Yes, we are." "Do you have a problem with that?" "Oh, no, no problem at all." Ruby giggled. "Fussing over eggs seems like the perfect activity for you." "Eggheads!" Alicia, Connie, and Zoe snickered together. Then they sprinted off down the beach. Nikki rolled her eyes. "Sometimes those 4 rodents are just the worst." "You said it, sis," said Paulina. "But who cares? Let's not get our tails in a twist over their silly jokes." Just then the mouselets heard a familiar squeak. "Nikki! Paulina!" It was Pam, Colette, Violet, and Mike scurrying to join them. "Hey, mouselets," said Paulina in surprise. "What are you doing here? And what's the big rush?" "We came to give you some big news," Violet replied. "This is James Rattern's assistant, Mike. We've told him all about Turtle Nestor caring for the sea, and guess what?" Pamela interjected. "He wants to turn your loggerhead turtles into movie stars." The first interview. Mike, Nikki, and Paulina began discussing the project. Together they decided the film should have lots of general information about turtles, plus interviews with the rodents taking care of the nest. It would end with video of the eggs hatching. "This documentary will be a great way to spread the word about how important it is to protect endangered species," Paulina said. "As the green mice always say, nature needs you." After class the next day, Colette, Violet, and Mike climbed into Pam's Jeep and headed south. Their destination, Tide House, home of Professor Ian Van Kraken's laboratory. The marine biology professor was the first rodent Nikki and Paulina had turned to when they discovered the nest. Mike definitely wanted to interview him for the documentary. "Welcome, students," said the professor, ushering them into his lab. "I'm ready to answer your questions." Mike and the Thea sisters quickly prepared a small set. Then Mike turned on his video camera and began filming. "Professor Van Kraken," asked Colette, "would you tell us why your students' work is so important?" "Of course," the professor began. "Loggerhead sea turtles could become endangered, so it's vital to protect their nests from predators and other threats. New hatchlings are the key to continuing the species." The mouselets nodded, and Professor Van Kraken continued. Female sea turtles nest every 2 to 3 years. They bury their eggs in the sand. When the eggs hatch, the little turtles work together to dig their way out. When night comes, they head toward. Species ID card, loggerhead SEA turtle diet, crabs, mollusks, whelks reproductive season. The warmest months of the year, typically June, July, and August EGG incubation period, 2 months. The sea, using the light of the horizon to guide them. Extraordinary, whispered Colette. According to studies, continued the professor, if they aren't disturbed. Female turtles remember the beach where they were born. They use Earth's magnetic field to find their way back as adults when they return to lay their eggs. After the interview, the Thea sisters helped Mike put away his equipment. The professor was absolutely fabulous, he commented. Tomorrow we can go film the nest. Perfect. We'll set up the cameras on the beach, said Pam. The young mice continued chatting as they headed back to the academy. They were so busy talking, they didn't realize someone was watching them.